My name is John Russo. I'm the City Attorney for Oakland, California. We are here today with the Neighborhood Law Corps, which is the sort of action arm civilly of the City of Oakland in our neighborhoods and in our community, to announce a lawsuit against a criminal enterprise which is acting as an outright menace to some of the most vulnerable members of our community. American Legal Services is an outlaw company here in Oakland that has based its business on swindling the families of immigrants who are seeking legal residency in America. As you can see in the complaint that we handed out and that we are filing today, there are related companies with different names and different addresses, but all are under the umbrella of an enterprise headed by a couple that lives in Alameda. They are the Bernie Madoffs of the immigration world. In the press packet that we've handed out today, you will see that one of their offices is in the Eastmont Mall. They are neighbors of the Oakland Police Department. American Legal Services holds itself out as a legal office that can help people to navigate the very complicated world of immigration law and immigration regulation. However, none of the people involved with American Legal Services is actually an attorney. Instead of helping these vulnerable families, this outfit has repeatedly scammed people by pretending they are attorneys, making false promises of citizenship, making people think they are eligible for green cards when they are not, charging exorbitant fees up front. The company charges thousands of dollars. In some cases, that amount is the entire life savings of the families who are seeking help. Once American Legal Services has the victim's money, they routinely act against the interests of those seeking help by giving false legal advice, botching immigration applications, and in some cases, those mistakes result in deportation proceedings. The company's illegal conduct includes pretending to be or strongly implying that they are attorneys when they are not, including in their name American Legal Services, practicing law without a license in violation of Business and Professions Code 6125, forging signatures, luring victims by making false and misleading statements and promises, making claims to have special influence with immigration officials, failing to provide their clients with required documents and translations, and violating pretty much every law that immigration consultants are supposed to follow. There are 6 families, of which this office is aware, that have been swindled by this company going back to 2007. As far as we know, they are mostly Latino or Arabic families. But given the patterns we're seeing, we're concerned that there could be hundreds of victims of this particular racket and that this is a very widespread problem in Oakland. In this complaint, we're asking for restitution for the people who have been ripped off, not only for what they gave to American Legal Services, but also what they had to spend with legitimate attorneys to fix the problems caused by ALS. We're also asking for significant punitive damages, civil penalties, and an injunction to prevent further illegal behavior. The total dollar amount, at least $150,000 to the victims, and we're asking for up to $8.2 million in civil penalties. We're asking for restitution of at least $15,000 for each of the 6 victims. The actual damages, the money spent to fix these problems, totals up to at least $135,000. The civil penalties, that big number, the $8.2 million, are for violations of the California Immigration Consultants Act. We believe, conservatively speaking, that there have been at least 82 violations of this act, and each violation is subject to a fine of a maximum of $100,000, and that's where the $8.2 million figure comes from. We're also asking for $15,000 in civil penalties under the California Penal Code. It's a provision that prohibits false statements in immigration matters. Of course, we're asking for punitive damages. That amount is never specified in a complaint, and we're asking for, or not properly anyway, and we're asking for reasonable attorneys' fees and costs. I just want to quickly note, there is a long history. This is nothing new. This is nothing unique to our community or Oakland. Ellis Island itself was put out in the harbor because prior to that, the American immigration station for the East Coast was at Castle Garden at the tip of Manhattan Island. And the reason the U.S. moved the immigration station out into the water and out into New York Harbor was because the folks who were coming off the boat into Castle Garden were being besieged, mostly by folks speaking their own language, saying, hey, come with me. When you get out, come with me. And then the new immigrant in a new country, not knowing the language, hearing a familiar voice and a familiar language, would go with that person, and often they were ripped off and scammed. This is a long tradition. Immigrants are extremely vulnerable. As the children of immigrants who came to America about 5 months before I was born, I really feel this case. I want to announce that we're holding an immigration workshop for private consultations with immigration attorneys and training on how to avoid fraud. So it's not just about bringing this lawsuit, but we're going to redouble our efforts to educate members of our community who are vulnerable. That immigration workshop will take place on February 27th. It's a Saturday. It's the last Saturday of February. Here at City Hall, we will have translators to work with folks in Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, as well as English. So with that, I want to take a moment and introduce from Centro Legal de la Raza, Allison Davenport, who will speak on the scope of the problem with immigration fraud here in Oakland.
I represent Centro Legal de la Raza in the Fruitvale District here in Oakland, which is the community where the fraud just described in the complaint occurred. And it saddens me to say that this is not an unfamiliar story. The victims' stories are very familiar to those of us in the world of immigration law. And I can't describe the stress, the pain, and the suffering that families endure as a result of this kind of fraud. And we're so grateful that the City Attorney's Office and the Neighborhood Law Corps is taking this issue up and going after these bad actors in the community. Like so many other fraud victims, some of the victims in this particular case were told that they were eligible for certain immigration benefits, and the reality is they are not eligible for those benefits. But they paid a lot of money on the promise that they were eligible, and their applications were, of course, denied by the Immigration Service. And those individuals were referred to immigration court proceedings and now face deportation. And I think the gravest outcome of this kind of fraud is that they ultimately face separation from their families. One of the victims resided in the United States for many, many years. His wife is a U.S. citizen. His children is a U.S. citizen. He has a good job. He's a law-abiding member of our community. And yet now he's facing separation from his family, from his children, who are United States citizens as a result of this kind of fraud. So again, I appreciate the support coming from the City Attorney's Office, the Neighborhood Law Corps. I hope it sends a message to people out there that this kind of fraud will not be tolerated in the City of Oakland. And I encourage people in the community to go to a reputable nonprofit organization, to speak with an immigration attorney, to get a sound legal advice about their situation so they know what their legal options are and are not. And we can hopefully together prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future. Thank you.
I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge a couple of people who are in the room who worked on this, who've worked on this matter or similar matters over the years. Captain Toribio is here from the Oakland Police Department. Thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank Councilmember Kwan, who is one of the council members who voted and supported the establishment of the Special Prosecution Team in the Neighborhood Law Corps as city programs. Thank you, Councilmember Kwan. I also want to thank the members of the Neighborhood Law Corps who do the work and make this happen for us, and that's David Hall and Amber McCauley and Jesse Newmark. Very proud of the program, very proud of each of them. I've told them that already. So with that, we just want to serve notice that we're watching others who are performing similar despicable acts against vulnerable people and tearing families up and bankrupting people. We're watching you, and if you don't stop what you're doing, we're going to file similar lawsuits against you.